it's better to be first than it is to be better. So if you're the first in the market, generally you've got the leader's advantage. So you don't have to be better than the second person.
Sounds awesome.
You just have to be the first person to do it. If someone else deadlifts 500 kilos, no one cares because someone's already done it. So it's better to be first.
We're all part of this whole money game. This whole...
Welcome back to another episode of Beers in Business. I'm Abe Dearmer, CEO of Appsembler.
And I'm Andrew Martin, CEO of Teamgate CRM. And how about we just jump straight into the beers today? It's beautiful day outside. Beautiful day for beer.
Yeah, maybe where you are, mate.
We've finally got some sunshine up in Queensland. It's been raining all last week, so it's good to see the blue skies.
Only for New South Wales just to roll in and rain in your parade, mate, hey?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. You can keep talking. We'll talk on Thursday.
Thursday?
After the game.
Oh, yeah. We'll see how we go. Oh,
what are you drinking today, mate? Another black can, I see. So we're sticking with the same brew.
So I got the Belgian Wit out today, and it's called the Sundowner. There you go.
Can you put it in front of the camera? Thanks. Can't see. There you go. I like their.
Yeah. So I mean, it's from the zoo, right? And a Sundowner is generally a beer that you drink at the end of the day during sunset.
When the sun goes down.
When the sun goes, so Sundowner, right? That's the name for it.
How's it go, mate?
Oh, that's delicious. Actually, it's very light with this really fruity.
Do you say it's
after
a wheat?
flavour.
Is it wheat? Wheat beer? No.
Belgian Wit, B-Y-T. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. This one, inspired by our many sundowners in South Africa, way too many of them. So previously the owners of Devil's Hollow spent a lot of time in South Africa. And so perfectly in tune with Dubbo sunsets. The Sundowner uses a special Belgian yeast, a large portion of wheat and oats for malts, and narromine, orange, peel and coriander seeds. An easy drinking beer for a summer's day can be served with a slice of orange. That's the fruity flavour, the orange. We think it's one of our most refreshing beers on tap. I'd agree with that. Is excellent. And yeah, Narromine oranges, famous oranges, probably some of the best oranges you'll ever have. But yeah, definitely a great beer. Well done, Devil's Hollow, on a great Sundowner.
It sounds like it'd be similar to like a Blue Moon, which is like an American beer that you'd have with orange as well.
Tastes less artificial than a Blue Moon. You know how you sort of get that artificial flavouring with a Blue Moon? Right? Yeah. It's American stuff, right? Yeah. Sorry to any Americans out there. But yeah, sugary. Like yeah. Canoe beer,
yeah. Garbage.
What do you got today, mate? Brouhaha still?
Yeah, sticking with the Brouhaha, the classic simple branding, which I love. Today I've got the Hinterland Pale. So going with the Pale Ale. Australian and New Zealand hops unite in a zesty tropical nose, add a sweet malt profile, and bingo, a Trans-Tasman Triumph. So bit of a Anzac theme, and it's definitely a pale ale. You can smell it. Traditionally, not a fan of pale ales, but
it's like I'm yet to have a bad beer a thing. You know how like smelling wine is a thing? Is smelling beer a thing?
I don't think so. But you can smell this. Smells fruity.
The oranges
looks good.
Yeah, it's a bit darker than mine. Bit darker. There you go.
That's good. That's really good.
What flavours are you getting, mate?
It's a pale, but it's not. Some pales are just so overbearing. It doesn't taste like beer. It just tastes like fruit. That's like a lighter pale. It's definitely got, my wife would love this. She likes a pale, and I think it's that light, smooth flavour. Again, Brouhaha, nailed it again. So we're 3 for 3 so far, yet to have a bad beer.
Yeah, nice. That's awesome. 2 from 2 for Devil's Hollow there. So looks like we picked a good spot. Have some beers. Maybe we just got low standards. I don't know.
Nah. I'm a beer connoisseur. We're both beer connoisseurs, mate.
Beer connoisseurs, mate.
Look at the reviews we're giving. We're definitely not reading from the tasting notes. But what are we talking today? We're talking about books.
We are talking about books. But first up, before we talk about books, let's do a talk about Brothers and Books and what they've got going on in September. So in September, they've got the world's coolest readathon, I think it is the name of it. We should probably know, right? If we're going to do a plug for it, should probably know the name of it. So world's coolest readathon, which is great. So tell us about it. It's in September. You've previously done it. This is going to be my first year.
September. Yeah. I have previously done it. So obviously we've had Dylan on the podcast previously. amazing work he does for mental health.
Great guy. His IQ dropped about 100 though when he
he's
did
still
that
struggling to bring the
reading
IQ
straight
back.
challenge.
But yeah, he does a lot of great work for emergency services and defence. And each year, their biggest fundraiser is the world's greatest readathon. So, world's coolest readathon. Sorry. So basically,
you're thinking
to
like
put it
world's
simply,
greatest shave.
Yeah, world's greatest shave. It's reading 5 books in 30 days. Obviously, you can read more than that, but you register, share your story and what books you're reading, and fundraise through your own profile. It's a big competition, and through the 30 days, Dylan and the team hand out some awesome prizes. So I remember last year, one of the coolest prizes I saw was like a custom-made dagger and it was all encased and framed up.
Nice.
And that went to one of the competition winners. But some awesome prizes through that. So far, since 2021, they've raised over $200,000 for mental health. So really great initiative. And of course, we love Dylan, we love Brothers and Books, and we love what they do. So happy to give them a shout out, especially today when we're talking about books. So good work to Dylan. And for those that are interested, we'll post a link to register yourself or your team to take part in the world's coolest readathon.
Yeah, nice. That's. I wonder if we should we try and put in like a podcast team
With you and me.
Anyone else who wants to join? Maybe we'll do.
Yeah, if anyone wants to join.
We'll do a poll on socials, yeah, and let's see if we get enough interest. We'll create a team and go in there.
For sure, sounds good.
All right, awesome. That way it'll force me to do it. But Brothers and Books, world's coolest readathon. Let's get in and support that. It's a great cause, and I think you're hearing from Dylan on the previous podcast. He is doing a lot of really great work all off his own bat. So you saw how much it helped him. So I think it's something that we could definitely get behind and continue to work with. But how's the week?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm back. I had a week off.
You lost footy.
And then I came back and then I got sick. And then, thanks for bringing that up. We, the mighty BUR Bulldogs, had our first loss of the year.
So Andrew and I were having a discussion about this, about how you drew with the team. And I said, technically that's not a winning season then because you had a draw.
The argument was about being undefeated. And a draw is not a defeat by definition. So whilst we haven't had a perfect season, we were undefeated, but that argument is now over anyway because we lost. So it doesn't matter. I'm going to have to cancel my tattoo appointment for Undefeated Premiers 2024. But we'll just amend it to Premiers when we get there.
Sorry to hear, mate. I'm sorry to hear.
I'm sure
it's tough. No, I've been a part of a team, right, that's gone through, and towards the end of the season, you end up getting that loss, and you lost against one of the lower tier teams.
We lost in second place. It was second.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Great game of footy. Yeah. Old school footy, very physical, and the game ended in 6-0.
Oh, that's right. You drew against people who were on
we
like
drew against the bottom 10. Yeah, we had 8 of our starting players out out of 13. But anyway, no excuses.
No, absolutely. I've been a part of a team that loses, and it takes a lot to turn it around the next weekend after you have that loss. It can go two ways for teams, right? They either come out firing and you feel sorry for the team that comes after it, or they take a bit of a hit to the chest and struggle for the rest of the season. But I'm sure, your leadership skills, mate, you'll
We've got 2 weeks off.
Boys.
We've actually got 2 weeks off. So we'll bounce back by having a golf day as a team, get some bonding, get that morale back up, and then we play Caboolture first week back. So strap in if you're from Caboolture, you're about to get...
Yeah, we'll make sure we highlight that, mate, and tag the Caboolture team in.
Yeah, don't jump me.
Just so they know.
In Caboolture, but anyway.
That's good. Yeah, no, my week's been good. Thanks for asking, Andrew. You're a really considerate guy.
No worries. I'm sure I knew you'd tell us anyway.
First week of school holidays, so it's always a challenge juggling kids and getting work done. I'm just trying to keep them busy while still achieving what I need to is pretty the biggest struggle there. But they're old enough now, like the bigger kids are old enough, so they can pretty much fend for themselves. Nice. Just making sure they don't eat me out of house and home while they're sitting at home with the food all there.
How are they adjusting to the new house?
Yeah, they're loving it. They're all in their own rooms, having a great time. Weston's got a heap of fish. Willow's got all of her drawing stuff out and about. So they're all having a great time. So they really enjoy it.
Nice. And we haven't mentioned it yet, but I suppose we probably should. Today we are talking about books. So we had a
we actually
question.
we could do that right at the start.
Yeah, people are like,
what's going on.
If they don't read the title, they're in trouble. But yeah, we had a question come through from Andrew West a couple of episodes ago about
Thanks, Westy.
a reading list, and if we had a reading list. So we thought, why not do an episode? We'll give a couple of book recommendations, and then we'll probably release a recommended reading list once a month based on different topics. So today we're going to talk about generally top 5 books for like business owners and people in leadership positions running businesses. So that's what we'll discuss today, and then down the road we'll talk leadership books, sales books, marketing books, things like that. So before we get into that though, of course, we've got to jump into our learning of the week and quote of the week. So I'll go first. Why not? I'm already talking for once. I won't give the mic to Abe, or I might not.
You're a bit talkative today, mate. So
yeah,
keep going.
I haven't taken my Ritalin. I've got a bit of energy, bit of ADHD going. But mine is around thinking outside the box. So Teamgate, the company I run, for those that aren't aware, we're relatively small. When I took over, when Abe took over, before I took over, it was predominantly in the European market. So we made a push into the US market and just testing different ICPs. And we're going to do a episode soon around ICP testing and targeting and how to develop ICPs, personas, and how to target different things. So my learning of the week is it's important to think outside the box, but also come back to why are your current clients with you? So it's always good to look internal before you look external and try to guess and think, okay, Teamgate will be suitable for construction. Well, do I have any construction customers at the moment? And if I do, why do they use us? If I don't, why are they using competitors? So had a really good conversation with one of our other colleagues, Donal, who runs integrate.io. And we started talking about why do our European customers use us? And the big thing came back to language, because we offer a Teamgate in a few different languages. It started to prompt some ideas around, well, if we expand the languages that we offer, and if we expand languages that we offer into countries that aren't offered by our competitors, that gives us a pretty big advantage to take that market and expand into those markets. So when you're looking at ICPs and who to target and how to expand, like I said, it's important to think outside the box. When we're looking at ICPs, it doesn't just have to be industries or business size or personas. It can also be languages and countries. So that's my learning of the week, and that's what I'll be testing for the rest of the year. So I'll keep you all updated on how that testing goes and the results as we go through.
Yeah, nice. That's exciting, and I think it'd be really interesting. You know, for software businesses, obviously it's easy to look at that, but I mean, there's other ways to look at it as well. Depending, like if you're an in-person business, trade, or something like that, then looking at the potential there of, you know, being able to expand into geolocations, right? So if you're in one town, go to the next. What does that look like? How you achieve those expansion goals? I mean, there's a lot that goes with it, but I think when you look at growth, you need to understand when, okay, I've probably captured as much of the market as I can here, or my ICP here, without expanding into different categories as well, is probably the way to look at it. So that's exciting. Good to see where that goes. Yeah. My learning of the week is you don't know the full picture. We often make assumptions about things, and people have a lack of curiosity when it comes to sales calls, when it comes to customer success calls, when it comes to marketing as well. And so links into this ICP piece when you look at like why people choose you, and just being generally curious instead of saying like, oh, they choose us because we're a great CRM. It's like, no, we actually just chose you because there's no real other options in our language. And it may take you a little while to get to that point. Being curious about all those sorts of things is really essential, and it goes to all facets of life, whether that be in sales, whether that be in just general relationships, things like that. It definitely rings true. And this sort of stood out to me with sales calls and that I've had this week, and just talking to people about getting to the reasons why they wanted to implement our solution. It's not always what they perceive at face value, and sometimes they won't actually give you the information, the true meaning why, until they're sure you understand that technical reason why. So being able to relay back to them what they need or what they want in the words that they used, and then digging that little bit deeper often opens up the conversation. So it's like they've got this glass panel behind them, and that's where they're hiding like the true gold of what they're talking about. And so you just need to be able to smash through that and spend enough time focusing on the why to get to that point.
Yeah, definitely. And it was probably the biggest thing I had to learn when I moved into this role, coming from a military background with no sales expertise or, customer facing experience. And it was from you, right? And I remember you would say every time we'd review a sales call, be curious. And I end up having a sign behind my computer that just said, be curious, because that's where it all starts. And asking those questions, initially you have that, it's like you feel like you're being an annoyance by asking these questions. But as a customer, I've bought before, and how many times have you been sold to where they haven't listened to you, or they're just assuming that you need X, Y, and Z? I've had it today, right? I've already spoken to you about it. I'm looking to go to a couple of conferences in Texas, and this guy he's not listening.
It's not making it easy.
Yeah, he's just like, oh, well, I'll give you a discount for 3 shows, and I've already told him I'm coming from Australia. I can't be in the US for a month. I can only go to 2 shows, which are 7 days apart. Do me a best price on 2 shows. And he keeps coming back to this 3-show thing, which is to attend 3 shows, I'd have to be in the US for a month. So he's just not listening. He's not being curious. He doesn't know what my value is. And I'm happy to pay if the ROI is there. But yeah, it does my head in when people are just selling or not listening. Active listening is also massive in conjunction with being curious.
Yeah, absolutely. Active listening is it links into it though, where I think is when you say active listening, it's so easy for people to misconstrue what that actually means, where it's like, but I'm listening to them. So that counts. Just like, are you really? But active listening is not just listening to someone. It's actually being able to reiterate what they've said with potentially more things added on, or have a bank of questions that comes out of the things that they have just talked about. So not a bank of questions as in like, oh, yeah, okay, thanks for telling me that, Andrew. Now, next scripted question that I have that was pre-prepared that is now no longer relevant to all the things you've just said, I'm going to ask that.
Roll through it, right?
That's definitely not active listening. It's like, Andrew's just told me X, Y, and Z. I need him to elaborate on why, and to do that, I'm going to ask this. You said that you do. Is that because of Z? And then it starts to fill that whole conversation. They're like, oh, he's actually listening to what I'm saying. And this is a conversation, not just me speaking and then blindly asking questions.
Yeah, it's not a checklist where you're just popping off the questions and then going, oh, yep, they're qualified. And I can't remember who it was. I don't think it was gap selling, but it was like, if you don't know the questions, just go 3 layers deep. Like ask why 3 times. Like if someone comes to you,
5 why principle.
Yeah, if someone comes to you about a CRM and says, I need a CRM because our sales team is not performing. Why? Why aren't they performing? Conversion rates are low. Why are your conversion rates low? Well, our sales cycle is too long. Why is your sales cycle too long? We're not following up as much as we should. Like, you actually get to the problem of what they're trying to address rather than our sales team sucks. So, yeah.
I think it's actually used in project management, the 5 why principle. So it's not actually anything from sales, but it's super relevant in sales and being curious, that 5 why. It just goes along the theories that, things are 5 layers deep, and to get to that point, you just got to keep asking questions.
Of course.
But on to my quote of the week. So this week I've got a quote from one of the books that's in my top 5. So this is from Al Rees. A bit old school, but still a lot of those things ring true. But his quote is, marketing is a battle of perceptions, not products. So it's about how people perceive your product, not your actual product itself. And I mean, one of the best examples of this is Salesforce, where their product is actually crap, but because of the perception that it's an enterprise, any business that wants to be successful, or any successful business, Salesforce implemented because it's got all these features, blah, blah, blah. That's a perception, right? When you actually compare the products side by side, and I'll do a plug for Teamgate with Teamgate, as far as like for a CRM, Teamgate is a much better product. So it's all about how people perceive your product, not the actual product themselves. So when you look at marketing, people focus on the product. Product's not important. No one cares about it. It's the problems you can solve, how people are going to have that perception of your product itself.
Yeah, for sure. And I won't add too many points to that. I'll just agree with you completely with everything you said.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good. Fuck Salesforce. And my quote, I've gone book specific. So show me a family of readers and I will show you the people who move the world. And that's from Napoleon Bonaparte. And
doesn't Dylan have that tattooed on his lower back?
I think he does, yeah. It's like a little tramp stamp.
Is that where it came from?
I think he did it to cover up the hole in his bum that he got cut out when he was in hospital. But shout out to Dylan. And I would say everyone in my family reads, myself, Harry. The only one letting us down is Charlotte. So the reason we haven't moved the world yet is solely on Charlotte. So
damn.
need to get her reading.
Isn't she studying though?
Yeah. Well, yeah, she's doing placement. She's finished all her study, to be fair. She's got to do a last hypothesis, whatever it's called, which she's nearly done. So the rest is just placement. So she'll be done at the end of the year.
So I mean, she has to be doing some sort of reading, right?
Yeah. She reads her marks. That's about it.
Yeah, nice. So. Yeah, good. No, I completely agree, though. I think, learning from other people's mistakes when you read is essential, and I think that's where it really comes from, is that people learn from the other people's mistakes. Bibliotherapy is another one as well. Feel a lot more, refreshed, ready to go after reading. I think you made the comment to me was it yesterday? Like, man, how do you find the time to read? Like, I don't know where you squeeze it in. And I was like, just read before bed. Like, it's just a habit, right? And it goes into the forming those habits is I at least read a chapter before bed. Ideally, I'd like to read more, but by the time I read a chapter and go to sleep, Yeah. By the time I put the kids to bed, all that kind of stuff, have a shower, get ready for bed, and then start reading. And by the time you finish that chapter, it's getting late. Got to get up early.
Yeah, it's with habits, it was the same. And I used to, I'm an audiobook guy, so every time I went to the gym, I knew that'd be a good chance to smack.
Then you stop going to the gym.
90 minutes to 2 hours of audiobook, and stop going to the gym. So there goes the reading habits. So today's a bit of a hard one. We go through our top 5 books. So I'll have to recall some of those books because it's been a while.
Man, I found the first 4 really easy. It was the last one because I think it's like the last one and there's a number of different options that are there.
Yeah.
And so I was sort of tossing up between, 3 or 4 books to fill it out and thinking what's the most relevant. So the way that we're going to do this segment is we're actually just going to have 2 top 5 lists. One's going to be mine, one's going to be Andrew's. And I think it just gives a different spin on what we focus on and what we think is important. We could have combined the list and things like that, and Andrew and I could have went back and forward about what's more important, what book should be on there and things like that. But we both have different experiences, and I think releasing this as like a top 5 list just side by side will be helpful to anyone to understand it. And then going forward, we'll just release a, top 10 marketing books or something like that. That'll be a combination for both of us. But I'll kick it off with my top 5. And so this is based around like business owners, managers, leaders.
Do you want to go one for one?
Will it just get too confusing?
I don't know. Are yours in order of like most important? Yeah, let's go one for one. What's your number 1?
All right. My number 1 book is Amp It Up by Frank Slootman. And I have read this book probably like 4 times now. And every time I just remember exactly why I read it the last time. And so Frank Slootman, for those that don't know, now former CEO of Snowflake, he's IPO'd 3 companies now in the US, tech companies. So when we look at what the book's about, Frank Slootman shares his insights on how he transforms all of these companies from good to great, sometimes from average to great, and taking them all the way through to an IPO. So this is really, really good because it breaks down the strategies and the tactics that he utilizes and he's like learning. So it's really good where he talks generally about the principle and then talks of how he implemented it in one of the companies that he took to IPO. So he gives like that real world example. And he's a South African sharpshooter, like doesn't take any shit sort of guy. So It's a really, really like to the cut book. Discuss strategies around increasing speed, discipline, and building intensity and momentum in business operations. Often when you get to a certain size, things start to stagnate, and he talks about how you get through that. Really, really good for entrepreneurs, business leaders, managers who coming into a role or feel like they need to increase or, as he would say, amp it up in your organization, this is a great book to read, because you read chapter 1 and then you go back to work that week and be like, all right, I'm going to smash this in. And you just start smashing it and amp it up, and you're like, whoa, look at all that effect. Then you read the next chapter and you go and do it for a week and you're like, this is amazing. So I'd recommend, if you're going to read this book, just either read it all at once and then come back and read a chapter a week and just aim to like implement that strategy for that week and see how it goes. But the key takeaways for me is the importance around standards and expectations. So, you know, the old army saying, you know, the standard you walk past, the standard you accept type thing. It's 100% true in business as well. If you let someone give you a dodgy presentation, they're going to produce dodgy work. Don't let it happen. And if you wouldn't be happy presenting it or implementing it yourself, then don't accept it to move through. Maintaining a sense of urgency across the organization. He tells this thing where he'd go into a company and if someone couldn't tell him in 30 seconds or less, or it might have even been 10 seconds or less, what they did, then he would just assume that their job is completely useless. Because generally people who have an important job can just say, like the CFO, I manage the finances of the company to make sure we don't go broke. Okay, you've got a great job. But someone else who works in the company and goes, oh, you know, like sometimes I help out Janice with her reports, and then I go over and start to do this. I do a few blog posts and marketing pieces, and it's like, oh, what are you actually doing? It doesn't seem like much. And you start to dive a little bit deeper. So that's definitely something to consider. And then he also outlines some of the, you know, the key strategies there for driving improvement and innovation. And that was really evident at Snowflake, and what he was able to do, especially around the sales and marketing of Snowflake. People sort of knew Snowflake, but it definitely didn't explode until Frank Slootman came in and just took it absolutely off the scales.
Yeah. And this is a book I'm started to read. I haven't finished it yet. And I even almost had it on my list, because same thing. It's so impactful off the bat. Like from chapter 1, you're going, wow, these are impactful lessons and things that you can actually go and practically test yourself. So yeah, that's a great one, and probably one we could do a whole episode on this one book because of how many takeaways there is and how relevant it is to probably our listeners and small business. So yeah, that's a good one. My number one, and I'll preface this with, my books are very specific to what I needed personally. So from moving from military into the business world, I had no sales experience, no real experience in business other than some study that I did. So my books are prefaced on what I needed at the time, and then also listed in that order for what I needed. The first one, we've already done a full episode on this. It's Atomic Habits. So I won't harp on it too much, but as the name suggests, it's about habits, and it's about the science of habits, and particularly how small habits can lead to big change. So it's actually funny. A lot of people that have read the book were actually put off by the name because they see atomic and they think atomic bomb, they think big, when really it's around atoms and small habits and what small habits can lead to. So, you know, it talks about how to build good habits, how to break bad habits, and then how to, you know, master those tiny behaviors that lead to success and lead to big change. So pretty much anyone should read this. I don't think this should be limited to business people particularly. I think anyone who's looking to build efficiency and productivity into their life, this is applicable to both the business world as well as your personal life, which we've spoken about in the previous podcast. But, you know, anyone that's seeking a structured approach to habit building, and I know, so Westy, the one that asked for the reading list, he reached out because he was changing roles and he wanted to be more on top of his habits and time management. So it's particularly important for people like that, where you're going into the unknown or you want to add more structure to your day-to-day. So I think, yeah, this is a must read for anyone looking to implement that structure into their workday and personal life. But I've also used it to implement, so from a leadership perspective, I've used it to implement things like effort-based goals for my employees. So, you know, rather than giving my sales team a goal of generate $5,000 in sales revenue, give them goals around efforts. So, you know, engage on LinkedIn for 1 hour per day. You know, start to build those habits, because once they see how effective those behaviors are, they're going to do it by themselves, you know, after the quarter, because, you know, they've generated a bunch of demos from this different marketing source, or they've seen how effective it can be. So I think it's also a really good tool to building out goals if you're looking to take a different approach for leaders. The key takeaways for me is the power of small habits and incremental change. So, you're not going to increase your bench press by 100 kilos overnight. It's going to be that incremental change, and consistency is key. Some of us might, like me, but some of the weaker blokes like Abe, it's going to take a little. The importance of systems over goals. So putting a system in place. So like I said, rather than giving an outcome-based goal, which could be influenced by the economy, the environment, giving a system or putting a system in place where people are going and engaging with prospects, engaging with current customers, and doing that regularly. That way, whatever happens in the economy isn't going to be too effective on that system. Sorry, needed to sneeze.
That was the best of us, mate. Don't worry.
And then the techniques for habit stacking. So Abe just said it. Every night before he goes to bed, he'll read a chapter. Having that trigger or that cue that's going to force that habit or make that habit more natural. So every morning I drop my son at daycare. So I take a break between 8 and 9 a.m., which is technically my lunch break because I start at 4. But that trigger is taking my son to work. That reward is a coffee. So when I get back, that's when I have my coffee break, and then I get back to work.
Did you say taking your son to work?
School.
Making wallets down at the local Sunshine Coast sweatshop.
He's working at a sweatshop around the corner. But yeah, that's my number one book, and recommend.
It's a good book. And I think it's a good, it's up there, definitely up there on the list. And I think Atomic Habits it just creates this environment for people. And some people do it subconsciously. And you see like some of the people who are successful in the world, they just have they've just built up this thing where they just create habits and they do all this stuff intrinsically. But being able to distill it down into a process, I think is super important for people to understand how they can build those habits as they move forward. So number 2 on my list is the 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing by Al Ries and Jack Trout. Yes. Yeah. So this is I guess you could say it's a classic, right? It's an old school book. Al Ries, Jack Trout, they're older players in the marketing game, but it just talks about 22 key principles that can make or break a marketing campaign. Not even so much a marketing campaign, but in business entirely in the marketing space. And I think it's really important because these laws, although it's one of those timeless books where the laws don't go away, they don't change. And I think they've done a really, really good job here distilling what those key principles are. It talks about your positioning, branding, creating a lasting impact in the market. And each of these laws, right, once again, very much like Amp It Up, it has the law, gives an example of why it's relevant. So this is usually like a non-marketing sense. Like it talks about like who was the first person to fly around the world in a plane. And it's like, okay, who was the second? No one cares because there was a second person. But who was the first female? And so it starts to talk about being the first in your category as opposed to being the first, right? And people who should read this, look, if you're responsible for the marketing of your business, if you're a small business owner and you are, running your marketing campaigns, it's worth reading because it'll give you a great understanding of, some of these laws around marketing and things you should consider when starting those marketing campaigns. And longer term, looking at your business as well. It actually helps you shape where your business should be going and things, where you should take things. Really, really, it's actually quite a short book. It's quite thin, really easy to read. I mean, a chapter will probably take you 2 minutes, 3 minutes to read through. There's some really good summaries online if you're looking for that as well. If you don't want to buy the book or whatever, there's like really good book summaries because it is such a short book. They're able to do that pretty well. But once again, I recommend reading it. Key takeaways, and these are probably the 3 laws here that I think are probably the most important ones, is the law of leadership. It's better to be first than it is to be better. And so, this goes into the quote that I had for this week from Al, which is marketing is battle of perceptions, not products, right? So if you're the first in the market, generally you've got the leader's advantage, right? So you don't have to be better than the second person.
Salesforce.
You just have to be the first person to do it. And so it's like, the first person to ever deadlift 500 kilos, right? That's great. If someone else deadlifts 500 kilos, no one cares because someone's already done it. So it's better to be first. Yeah, exactly. No one cares, right? So if they've ever even landed on the moon. But that's the topic for another discussion. But then also the law of focus, right? So own a word in the prospect's mind. And so this just really nails it down to stop with the big, wordy, changing your marketing strategy campaign all the time. Stick with a specific focus point and get everyone to focus on that. So for Teamgate CRM, you're the best value for money CRM. Maintain that, keep that going, right? And so you own that word. Best value CRM is Teamgate. Best value CRM is Teamgate. Best value CRM is Teamgate. Everyone should be thinking that. So the law of focus that you should have there. The law of exclusivity, right, is that two companies can't own the same word in the prospect's mind. Okay, so when you think Starbucks, right? So that's the law of exclusivity, right? Like, because Starbucks is everywhere. So when you think about coffee, you think about Starbucks. And it's weird that you think about Starbucks considering that when's the last time you went to a Starbucks?
Yeah. Probably Zarafas, to be honest.
But the first third you thought of when I said coffee is Starbucks.
Yeah.
Who do you think of when... Who do you think...
Brouhaha, of course.
I was hoping you'd say that, right? Because they are now own that exclusivity in your mind, okay? And so when you think of, let's just say, golf drivers.
Callaway.
There you go, Callaway, right? They own that, right? So you need to dominate that space that when someone thinks of, I want a new driver for golfing, you go, oh, well, you got to get a Callaway. Why do you have to get a Callaway? I don't know, but I love Callaway. So you got to own that space in people's minds. So
all the best players.
When someone says, I need an electrician, who do you think of?
Oh, Mitch McMahon, of course.
Zeus Electrical, right? First thing in your mind, he owns that space. When someone says electrician, you go Zeus Electrical. That's where you want to be, and that's what you want people to see. So that can be, we brought up like big brands, but you take it down into the local level, you can definitely own that space. Someone says, I need a cleaner, and then Bathurst, something clean living. Straight away. I don't even know any other cleaning company because I don't care. They don't own a space in my mind. And that's like something that you really need to consider when you start your marketing campaign, is that you need to own that space.
Nice.
So that's the 22 immutable laws of marketing.
But you've hooked me because you said it was very short. All right, my number 2. And I probably want to say this is my favourite audio
Number 2
book.
on the list, number 1 on your heart.
Yeah, probably my favourite audio book that I've ever listened to is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. And I know it's one of your favourites as well. I would say the best negotiation book that you're going to find. And like I said, I think the audio book's even better. So Never Split the Difference, as I just said, it offers negotiation advice from Chris Voss. So Chris Voss is the author. Chris Voss was a former FBI hostage negotiator and then moved into like sales negotiation training and things like that. But the thing I love about this book is pretty much through the whole book, it's all linked to real life personal experiences through his career as a hostage negotiator. So you're actually...
You know what? I'm just going to stop there, right?
Here we go.
The first, so that both of our top 2s, there's like one thing that's in common with all of them is that they all link to real life experiences. All give practical examples until they talk about the theory, right? It's really interesting, right? That if you're going to write a book, there's your formula.
It comes back to what do we do as companies selling a product? We like to social proof. It's the best form of social proofing is personal experience. So, if Chris Voss is teaching you how to negotiate and all the examples are his personal examples as a FBI hostage negotiator, that's the best form of social proof, right? So, yeah, he pretty much walks you through all these different negotiations that he's done through his FBI career, which is applicable through to your own career. And it goes from, negotiating rent through to sales negotiations, through to hostage negotiations. So yeah, one of my favorites. And obviously anyone should read this that's in sales or any sort of deal making or negotiation will benefit from reading this book. Even husbands like me who have to negotiate their allowances with their wives, I would say this is a good one to read. And I think one of the early examples in the book is it talks about mirroring, and it says go and test it next time you speak to your wife. Go and do mirroring and see how effective.
I think it says partner, but yeah, use it on your wife.
Or your partner, wife, kids, whoever it is. But key takeaways is tactical empathy is talked about a lot. So having empathy and understanding the counterpart's perspective and putting yourself in their shoes and seeing where they're coming from. Techniques such as mirroring and labeling will help build rapport and gather information. And then the calibration questions to influence the negotiation process. And I use this book on a daily. Every time I'm negotiating this morning for this conference in Texas, mirroring and going back and
how's that working out for you, buddy?
Well, I got him down from 11 grand to 6.5, so it's gone pretty well so far. But yeah, this is a must for anyone in sales. It's the first book I recommend for any sales reps that want to work for me. It's massive. This one and Gap Selling, I would say, are the two best sales books out there. But I have a different opinion.
Yeah,
we'll see when we get to the sales.
The sales one. Look, never split the difference. I don't care who you are. You just need to read it. It'll help you in life in general, not just in business. It's
buying a car, but like anything.
Yeah.
Negotiating your bill down from Telstra or whoever it is, like it's so applicable to everyday life.
Yeah, like you use it regardless of what industry you're in, anything like that. It even talks about in there like negotiating a pay rise. So if you're an employee working for someone and you want to negotiate a pay rise, never split the difference, right? So it's a book there that you can read no matter what, and it'll help you in any organization to help you get your next job more than likely as well. So number 3 for me, I've mentioned this on the last podcast, Sam Walton, Made in America by Sam Walton. So for those who don't know who Sam Walton is,
I've heard really good things about this one.
Yeah. Walmart, just from me or from other people?
Nah, Chase read it as well. That was one of the first ones he had on his reading list.
Yeah. It is a great book, and it really just shows how someone from Sam Walton, who essentially came from nothing, now owns one of the biggest, grocery supermarket chains in America and arguably the world, right? It is just absolutely mental, the growth that Walmart had and how Sam Walton instrumented that. And this book just goes through an autobiography of his life, starts from the beginning all the way through, talks about his failures that he had when he was younger, starting his stores, all the way up to building the empire that is Walmart at the moment. Talks about the innovations, the persistence, how he was a visionary, and how he stayed grounded as well is really, really cool to see. Is that although he's this completely insanely rich person, he lives like the same life he did, wears the same clothes, lives in the same place where he started his original Walmart on his farm, still does everything really frugally, and he ended up getting his own pilot's license so he could fly himself between Walmarts because he didn't want to pay airfares, because he worked out it'd be cheaper to have his own plane and fly himself places. Things like that he just does, where he's always looking where he can save money. Really, really astute investor. Talks about how he came up with the name of Walmart, and also talks about like how he scouts new locations for Walmart. He actually just flies over the city and looks at where would be like a prime location to put a Walmart, and then goes and sees where he can buy the land up to do it. Really great for entrepreneurs who are wanting to get started or are in the midst of it, to understand what it takes and give you some ideas about innovation that you can put in place. If you work in retail or, you manage a retail store or something like that, really good to put these business practices into place to work out how you can generate more profits and things like that for the store. But for anyone in general, it's just a really interesting read from where Sam Walton come from to where he is. But my key takeaways that I have for this is the power of thinking small and sticking to your roots. So Sam Walton, he didn't have these big expansion plans. He just looked for, where's the next Walmart that I can situate close enough to me so I can supply it and still look after it and make sure it's sticking true to the values. So he always was really big on the Walmart values and making sure that each store sort of held those values. Importance of adapting, constantly looking for better ways to serve customers. So Sam Walton went through all of these different iterations of customer service, from having donkey rides out in the car park of one of his stores to putting ice cream machines, fairy floss, clowns, like all these different things that he put in place to try and bring people through the doors into Walmart. And the last takeaway that I have is just the value of hard work. thriftiness and just looking for those constant areas of improvement that you can get. And I mean, we heard it when Mitch McMahon was on talking about Zeus Electrical, the hard work that he had to put in, the hard work he still puts in. But on top of that, some of the lessons that Sam Walton, questionable. But on top of that, the thriftiness of Sam Walton and how he used to drive to suppliers' locations and bargain with them significantly, and he'd go and buy like 1 million pairs of pantyhose because he was getting a ridiculously good price, and would then sell the pantyhose at like $1 less than every other store around him, and people would like rush in to get these pantyhose. Like, it's crazy some of the stuff he did.
Were you one of them, Abe?
It was before I was born that he actually did that initiative, so I'd like to say no.
I haven't read it, but I need to put it on my list. I've got some Audible credits, so I might purchase it today because like I said, I've heard a lot of good things. Obviously a very successful man and did some very great things with Walmart. So yeah, I'll have to put that one on my list as well and get back to you. But number 3, we're up to number 3. Number 3 for me, and you'll laugh at this one. It's a classic, timeless classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Carnegie. And Abe probably knows why I needed to read this one. As an introvert and someone that doesn't like talking to people in a customer-facing role, this one was pretty key. I will preface it with, it is a very long book, and I read the summary, the Audible summary, which was about 2 hours. The key takeaways. Dude,
how you got something on a reading list?
Nah, it's
you
great.
haven't even read the book.
I listened to the summary and it was still 2 hours, and it basically just summarizes the book in 2 hours. So I'm sure the longer version would be even better. So
if anyone wants to actually read it, go ahead and do it.
If anyone wants to read it and get back to me, let me know if there's anything I missed. But obviously it's around communication.
Anything you missed, mate? You missed about 3 hours of the audio book.
Shut up. It's around communication, how to build relationships, how to build friends, which are all skills that I still need. And obviously anyone that's customer facing, whether it's brick and mortar customers every day or software like me where I'm doing sales calls each day on Zoom, it teaches some really good takeaways around how to build rapport, how to put yourself in the other person's shoes, and how to build that relationship as you go through the sales process. So everyone should read it, really, that's in that customer-facing role. Key takeaways: 6 ways to make people like you. So the second one really got me, which is smile. My wife on the daily tells me I look like I'm angry. I think it's just my eyebrows, and I was born with it because my 2-year-old son has the same eyebrows and he always looks angry too, but he's actually not. So 1 is smile. 2 is become genuinely interested in other people. So what do they do? Asking questions, being curious. Remembering a person's name is a big one. So when I do a sales call, the first thing I do is, in any notes that I'm taking, I have their name in bold at the top of the call, in the top of my notes, because I've got a terrible memory. But
I'm horrible with names. And it's really bad.
I'm even worse in person. Like if someone shakes my hand and says their name, it's gone.
Yeah, so, like I didn't know your name for like the first 2 years you knew each other.
I'll just call you dickhead anyway, so it's fine.
Don't attack me like that.
Be a good listener. So Abe's already touched on this point. So active listening, encouraging others to talk about themselves, and actually listening actively and identifying what they're trying to say and taking it to that next level. Talk in terms of another person's interest. So it's going to increase their engagement and their willingness to talk, and then make them feel important, but do it sincerely. So don't, blow smoke up them. But if you can identify or relate to the problem they're trying to solve, and make them relate to that, or make them relate to how you're trying to help them, it's really going to help in building that rapport. So that one's a good one. The 6 ways to make someone like you. Obviously, it goes into different details as well around how to win people over and techniques around leadership. But that's a big one for those people who have the time to read a longer one. Otherwise, be like me and get the summary. There is also other good, like Atomic Habits, there is good YouTube summaries out there that are about 20 minutes if you want to watch them to give you some sort of visible graphics.
I think you should read the full book, mate. I don't think you've quite mastered it yet.
I've got to do the other one first. I've got to do Sam's.
So How to Win Friends and Influence People is a classic. It's been around for a long, long time, and it's a really, really good book about relationships. And once again, people read it because they need it for business, to be successful in sales or leadership or whatever. But once again, it's another one that is a life book that, I mean, you can build better relationships, make more friends. Like, it's literally...
Well, how important is networking, right? If like you and I are both where we are now because of how we networked while we are in the military, right? If well, I don't know about you, but if we were both dickheads and no one liked us, which plenty of our colleagues were, and plenty of them are still in the same position they were in, right? So networking is just, and relationship building is so important, regardless of what job you're in or what position you're in.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Number 4, Measure What Matters, a simple idea that drives 10x growth by John Dyer. So this book here is OKRs. So you've heard us talk about OKRs, the importance of them, how we use them all the time. This is the book by the guy who founded OKRs and talks about how it was implemented at Google, everything that was done. Realistically, don't need a lot of explanation to this. We've already done it on a podcast. Objectives and key results is what OKRs stand for. But if you are a business leader, a manager, any sort of team leader that wants to drive performance, see increase results, then this is the book you need to read, because it's going to give you all of that information that you need of how to develop OKRs that are actionable, that are going to make a difference. So the key takeaways that you're going to get from this book: the structure and benefits of OKRs. And so it's going to talk in detail and give examples of those OKRs as well. And it also, not only that, outside of the OKRs, it'll also tell you how to align the team towards those and get the focus put on that across the organization. So I think that's really important. And one of the best things about the book, and I was just looking at all 5 of my books, they all do the same thing. Talks about OKRs, talks about how to implement them, gives examples the whole way through, case studies of where OKRs have been successful and the results that it's driven. So once again, practical examples for the win in your books, and this definitely has one. It has a lot of practical examples that are thrown in there by John Dyer in this. So great book if you're looking at OKRs. If you feel like you're stuck in your goal setting, read this book and it'll just realign you to where you need to be. Or listen to our podcast, probably equal measures, right? If you like Andrew and you want to listen to the summary, do our podcast. But if you want to read the full book, go ahead and do it.
Just listen to us, guys. We'll help you out. But yeah, OKRs massive. Obviously, you and I both run our companies around OKRs and around goals. So that's a good one for anyone. That's really driven by goals, whether it's efforts or outcomes. My number 4, Gap Selling by Keenan. And Abe, I know for a fact you've read this one because I think you actually bought me the book originally to read. So Keenan is by far my favorite sales person
influencer
in the world. Sales influencer, you want to call him. He's also a salesperson. And his book is amazing. And I would say it's relevant not only to sales reps. I think it's relevant to anyone that solves problems, because it focuses on understanding the gap between a customer's current state and future state. So you can apply this to you as an individual. You can apply this to, the customers that you're facing, prospecting, someone you're consulting.
And I think this is for, tradies and things like that as well. Like, if you need to work to get the job, like, let's just say the environment it is, like, tradies can turn away business and they'll still be fine. It's it's when you get to that point where it's not the case and you need to fight for business. You're like, you want a new aircon installed. Why do you want a new aircon installed? Walk me through what's going on. Like, it gets so hot in the bedroom, we can't sleep. Oh, no, you can't sleep. It must really be affecting your ability to go to work in the morning. Like, it sucks to get up. We really struggle. How are you performing at work, though? Oh, terrible. It's horrible. And you just, build that. And it goes into, never split the difference, how to win friends and influence people. Those all link into it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, their current state is they can't sleep. It's hot in their room. They're tired all the time. And then you get down to what, the business problem might be, is that they might be about to lose their job because of underperformance, or their business might be about to close because they haven't been performing well enough because they're too tired. So then, if you're looking at installing an aircon to allow you to sleep better at night and all that, the cost is not important. And electricians and, air conditioner installs, don't worry, they'll fleece you for all you got, but they make sure to get their worth out of it with using, gap selling as a framework.
Yeah, for sure. And, it also helps the customer understand what the problem is that they're trying to solve, because the amount of times the customers come to me and they've come to me with a specific problem, and by going through the process of gap selling in that current state and future state, and taking that extra layer deeper and being curious, you actually work out that the root cause is completely different to what they're explaining to you. So 9 times out of 10, you're actually going to help them understand that the problem that they're facing is actually something different. You could still solve it and how you solve it, but gap selling is amazing as a sales technique, but it also helps you understand your own business. So you and I have both done a thing that's mentioned in the book is a problem identification chart. So you actually analyze your own business and you say, what problems do we solve? At Teamgate, what problems are we solving? If a customer comes to me with an issue around conversion rates, can I solve it? Or do we move them on to someone else? So it's having that look internally at what you solve, because then that feeds into your marketing, it feeds into your ICP, who you're targeting. And if you don't solve any problem, you're in the shit straight away. So Keenan he's on LinkedIn. I don't know if he does it as regular anymore. He used to do a LinkedIn live once a week where he would invite anyone to come and try to sell him a product using gap selling. And he would use that call as like sales training to teach any of the people watching. But he would say, if you find a gap in my business and you have a product that solves it, I'll buy it. But you've got to sell it to me. So, he turned some of them into podcasts. So there's some great content out there for gap selling and Keenan. The book is amazing. I think, like I said, everyone should read them. If you're in sales, you should definitely read it. But again, it's applicable to life. So I think another one where anyone can really read it. But the key takeaways: identifying the gap between current and future state, how you actually solve it, or if you solve it, can be really important into your qualification. Techniques for uncovering true customer needs and pain points. So like I said, if they come to you with an issue that they think is an issue and really it's something else, uncovering that. Because again, if you uncover something that they don't know, you're going to build trust and rapport straight away. So using gap selling to do that, and then how to position your product or service as the solution to bridge the gaps. Again, going back through doing that PID chart and identifying what problems you solve and how you solve it, and then positioning your product to be the solution for those problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I think gap selling across the board, best sales book that I've read with the most actionable components to take out of it. So definitely
they have an online course. They have online training that you can go through. So one of the first things we just took on an intern, the first thing I did is I paid for him to go and do that course, because like I said, I just think it's invaluable skills that you can learn there through Gap.
Awesome. All right, my last book on my list, coming to number 5, Play Bigger, by Al Ramadan, Dave Peterson, Christopher Lockheed, and Kevin Maney. Quite a lineup there. Yeah. But this book here is actually really, really interesting for anyone who's looking to get into different categories. So they're looking to expand their business into different categories. This goes through how to create a product category and how to dominate that entirely new category of business. And so this is really interesting, because if you're in a saturated market with a particular category, you can go out and define your own category. So this links into the 22 immutable laws of marketing. If you can't be first, be different, right? So this is essentially going, I'm not first in my category, so someone else has a leadership advantage. I need to be different. How am I going to be different? And then you need to go through and work that one out. So this is really good for business owners, entrepreneurs, people looking for innovation, like marketing, trying to come in and have an impact within an organization. This book here will really open your eyes up to how to create new categories and be disruptive with your marketing ideas. It's actually a reasonably short book. Once again, has a lot of cases, real world examples of people who have gone and done this in the past, so you can build that understanding. But the key takeaways that I've got from this is the importance of category design and how you shape out that category and how you be different enough while still not needing to do massive product changes and things like that. What are the steps to creating a category as well? Going through the process of all right, you need to have a pitch deck that teases the promised land of this new category. What problem does this new category solve? All those sorts of things that links in. And then the last one is some of those real world examples of people that have gone out and created their, completely new categories that come from it. One thing that, you look at, most people would understand this one as the McDonald's, right? They were a burger store, but burger stores back then were slow, and they were the first ones to create the category of fast food, right? Burgers, fast food. I think there's that famous scene, right, of in the movie, the McDonald's movie, right, where he goes in and he's like, yeah, I'll have a burger with fries and a drink. He's like, no worries. And then he sort of like steps away and he's like, here's your food, sir. And he's like, excuse me? What do you mean? It's like, here's your food. It's ready. It's yours. And he's like, you sure? And then it's like, where do I eat it? Well, you could go and sit in your car or go sit on a table. Like, you choose. He's like, okay. And it's like confusing because it's this whole new category of thing. So that's an example of like, hey, they weren't the first burger store. If they were just a burger store, they probably wouldn't be around today. But because of how they created that new category.
Expanded into different categories, right? They're now the number one coffee seller in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely mental,
Insane.
right?
Insane.
So why don't you think of McDonald's when someone says coffee?
I just don't like it.
You don't like Starbucks either.
I'm a coffee snob. Yeah. I actually just make my own now. Shout out to the coffee beans. I can't even remember the name. I sent you the company.
Yeah, no, good, mate.
Pretty good. But so knowing where Teamgate's at, you know Teamgate pretty well. Would you recommend this as a book for us to read?
Yes, I would.
Yeah. Add it to the list. Mate, I'm going to be reading for the rest of it. There you go. I got
September
five
mate.
books. I got five
September
books for the readathon.
World's coolest readathon, mate.
There you go. Sorted.
Ready to go.
I'll sign up today. All right, my last book is The Outsiders by William Thorndike, and I believe you would have read this one because I've read this one a little while ago. It's part of the Xenon reading list. So when I was first employed, you had to read some books. So this one examines 8 unconventional CEOs and their strategies for success. So it identifies common traits, business practices that actually set them apart. So I read this one a little while ago, but obviously I think this one's applicable to people that are in leadership or aspiring to be in leadership. So whether you're a CEO or in a director of ops role or running your own business. But those who want to learn, like we said, taking a step back in history and looking at historical performance and where they saw successes and how they saw successes. So, if you want to look at some of the most effective leaders in business history, this one's a must read. Pretty easy reading because it's broken up into the 8 CEOs. So it's, you could read one at a time and still get a lot out of it. So, I won't go too much into this one. Like I said, I read it a long time ago. Key takeaways are around like capital allocation and strategic decision making. So that can still be applied at a smaller level, depending on what stage your company's in.
Yeah, that stuff scales up and down. It's just the up and down magnitude of the capital, right?
The importance of decentralization and empowering managers. So this was massive for us in our military careers. So that decentralized command become a big topic whilst we were leaders, but empowering those people. And Abe is a great example of this. When I was working for Abe as a director of operations, his way of empowering me was he just left for like 2 weeks and turned off all communication. So I was empowered and forced to learn pretty quick. So
you're welcome.
It did. It took me to the next level, and I had to learn.
I think you called me once, right?
Yeah, I think so.
No,
yeah.
Actually, no, you didn't. You were going to.
I was trying.
Because something happened, and you were like, "Oh, I really want to call him." And I think it might have been Charlotte that was like, "No, don't call him." And you're like, "Okay, I'll figure this out myself."
I think it was Stripe. Stripe. We just migrated to Stripe, and those big issues. Good times. But I recently did it as well. I took the week off and pretty much handed over the reins to Chase and gave him that decision making authority and put the company in his hands, and he was fine. So it is important.
Gave himself 2 raises and spent all the money.
Yeah,
good work,
all that
Chase.
money's gone, which is weird, but it all worked out for the better. But yeah, it's a really good one. I've actually got an example
of this as well. Is that I was talking to Liv from Clean Living. She recently, and she's still on it at the moment, has taken 2 weeks vacation because she usually takes 2 weeks, 3 weeks break and goes for a drive and goes camping in her van. She did that, and she's like, the business is just sort of running by itself. People are doing things. And it's like, it's a great way that if you're unsure how your business is going to go, if you want to take a step back, just say, I'm going on a holiday for a week, go overseas, still have communication, but let people run with it and just see how it goes. And you know what the best thing about that is you're going to find out who is actually capable of doing things by themselves, who's an independent thinker, and who just needs to be, given taskings all the time, right? And you'll see the people who stand up and start to take standards into their own hands and make sure things are done properly, and the people who just let it fall to the wayside. And then the people who stand up and start to make the standards their own, they're the ones you want to go, okay, well, you're going to be a team leader, or you're now a manager, right? It's like, who's doing what when the boss isn't around?
And I think there's a big thing around. So we saw it in the military, right? People would say, "Oh, look at me, I'm executing decentralized command," and really, it was just them palming off their jobs to someone else, right? It's if you're going to commit to it, right? It's giving them, within scope, decision making abilities and autonomy. It's not you just palming off all your work and then claiming, taking the credit for it. So yeah, there's a balance there, but. Yeah, that's my 5 books.
All right, so recap. My top 5 books that I've got is Amp It Up at number 1, 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing at number 2, Sam Walton, Made in America, number 3, number 4, Measure What Matters, and number 5 for me is Play.
And mine were Atomic Habits, Never Split the Difference, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Gap Selling, and The Outsiders. We will get this into a one-pager, a downloadable PDF, so you can go and read the list yourself. And if you want to do some reading or even sign up to our readathon group, then you can read some of those books and give me some notes back.
Yeah, mainly if you read How to Win Friends and Influence People properly, maybe you can run an education session for Andrew on how to do it.
It'll take you the whole month to read.
No, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. All right, yeah, so just another plug. September, Brothers and Books, the world's coolest readathon. We'll put a poll up on socials, and we'll see if we're putting a team in or not. And then, like and subscribe, speaking of socials, to all of us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, mainly, and LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn as well. YouTube, Spotify. I already said YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Beers and Business Pod is where you'll find us. I'm most active on Instagram. Send us questions, topics, guests, feedback for episodes as well. So if you say like, hey, Andrew's a piece of shit, get him off the podcast, we can get that done. It's okay.
About the gym too.
So we can do all that. Just let us know. And you can find the podcast weekly, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. 10 a.m. Tuesdays is when the new episodes will be out every week. So tune in next episode.
Tune in. We'll see you then. Cheers. I got some beer to finish.
Yeah, man. Wow.
This is number 2. Come on. All right.
Well
see you
done.
then.
See you guys.